Alarm Media.
The time is just gone 9 minutes past 8 a.m. as we kick off this morning looking at the plight of the Uyghur Muslims. And over and over again, here at Salam Media, we have covered the issue of the Uyghur Muslims in concentration camp-like situations that they find themselves in. These are the conditions that the Uyghur Muslims have been facing, and they've been facing for many, many decades, where we've seen in that part of the world, it was known as East Turkestan, and the Uyghur Muslims have been, to the point, they've been persecuted and a genocide that has been unfolding over the years. We've seen the population, the Uyghur population, dwindle in that part of the world as Chinese brutality against the Uyghur nation continues in more ways than one. Yes, we have been talking about ethnic cleansing, but also aimed not only because of the ethnicity and where they come from, but more importantly, it has been a relentless campaign on the part of the Chinese government against Islam, making absolutely sure that every visible sign of Islam is actually wiped out in that part of the region, to the extent that people have not been allowed to fast. We know what has happened to many of the mosques that have turned, even some of them have even turned into pig farms as well. So this is clearly a major issue, and we joined now by the president of the World Uyghur Congress. We joined by Dolkun Isa, because we see dozens of countries that have raised the question about China and also raised this issue at the United Nations. Dolkun, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you very much to having me. Good morning.
Yes. Now, you know, Dolkun, we have been raising this issue about China and its abuses against the Uyghur Muslims for a very, very long time. And it has come to our attention. It's come to the world's attention. And we are now seeing that countries are obviously starting to take notice. We've seen countries issuing statements, and also now in the United Nations, where we've seen many countries, and we've heard that dozens of countries have actually voiced a concern about the abuses in that part of the world, and also the United Nations to take a lot more stronger action. For instance, publish a report which has been long coming, a long delayed report on the situation there.
Well, thank you very much to having me. First, yeah, as you said, now is the United Nations Human Rights Council 50th section is going on. I was in the Geneva just last night, very late. I came back to the home for another event, but this ongoing section is will be taking place end of next month. So this time, 47 countries issued jointly statement condemning China's repression policy against the Uyghur, and asked High Commissioner Michael Bachel to release the report on Uyghur issue. This is the significant steps. As you said, as you know, this persecution Chinese government against the Uyghur has a long history since the 1949. 1949, we call East Turkestan, China state Xinjiang. Chinese Communist Army occupied East Turkestan. The Uyghurs, Muslims, political, cultural, economic, social, all right has been continually violated by the Chinese Communist Party. But most of them world and most of them people around the world had no idea on this, and most of them were silenced. Since the 2016 and the Chinese government policy discrimination and assimilation policy into genocidal policy. So today, more than 3 million Uyghur and the Kazakh Muslim are suffering concentration camp. 1 million Uyghur children separate from the family, and the forced sterilization, rape Uyghur women, forced labor. This is the serious issue is ongoing in the 21st century. So we are trying to raising this issue to the United Nations, European institutions, different of country, different of platform internationally. But however, as we say, we have seen some positive positive reaction from international. This time, 47 countries made joint statement. It's a good step, but it's not good enough, because more than 119, nearly 200 countries member of United Nations, another 150 countries still silence, or even some countries support Chinese policy. This is the big issue, because human rights violation, discrimination exists everywhere around the world, every country, but level is different. But genocide just taking place today by Chinese Communist Party against the Uyghurs. So that's why this is good step, but it's not good enough. Still, we need seek international support. But compare last 5-6 years today, and the 47 countries joined. 2018 in the United Nations meeting, UPR on China, at that time, first time 14 countries is raising this issue and condemning China. Now, it's since the 4 years, this 14 country increasing 47 country. This is as they say, this is a good step. We are happy this is. Now it's more country, more people understand the Uyghur issue, because there is quite a lot of leaked document was published, and the camp survivor and made testimony, and we are raising this issue, and also several international media, BBC, Al Jazeera, and the CNN, Deutsche Welle, this all also issue several documentation. Several independent expert research center and published report, use the satellite resource, use the Chinese resource. So now is the more people understand the issue, but it's not good enough.
Yes, and also Dolkun, I think, when you're talking about numbers, I mean, 3 million people in concentration camp like conditions, and as you mentioned, 1 million children that have been separated from the parents is not a small number. This is clearly a serious matter, and we know that the Chinese government is extremely secretive about what they are doing, and also at the same time, making statements like, yes, there are camps, but they are vocational skills training centers. And we know for the fact that these skills training centers are nothing more than, obviously wiping out, eradicating all forms of Islam, from these people, because these are people that follow the Islamic religion.
Yeah, but this, as you said, and the Chinese government today, and trying to eradicate Uyghur identity. Islam, one of the important part of Uyghur identities. That's why Chinese government systematically target religious freedom and the religious identity of the Islam, of the Uyghur people. Actually, Chinese Communist Party is the organization is against the anti-religious organization. Communist parties, they don't respect any religious, despite of the Chinese Constitution. Of the Chinese Constitution, Article 36 very clearly mentioned everyone had the right to believe or not believe in religious. But today you don't have a right to believe in religious, but you have right only don't believe in religious. So that's why today Chinese Christian, Tibetan Buddhist, all targeted by the Chinese government suffering. But compare with Uyghur Muslims, some other is a big difference. Today Chinese government start war against Islam. Chinese Communist Party and Xi Jinping very clearly mentioned Islam is ideological illness, disaster. It must be eradicated. This is official slogan. But however, most of some Muslim world continue sleeping, and most of some Muslim leader is a silent. Even some Muslim countries support China's this policy against Islam. For example, very, very sad, I can say. Yesterday, I was in the United Nations, and the Pakistan and some other Muslim countries very openly support China, very openly support and the Chinese separation policy against the Uyghur Muslim and against Islam. This is unacceptable. This 47 country, only one Muslim country signed it. Albania, this is only Muslim country signed it. This is a joint statement. Rest of 46 country is not Muslim country. But Turkey is also made separate statement condemning China. It is good, but there is a more than 58 Muslim country member of Islamic Conference. This all silence is even some support China. This is the really shame situation, and this is the against the value of Islam, because Chinese government not only targeting Uyghur, at the same time targeting all values of Islam. Some part of the world, if any small insulting against Islam, Muslim leader immediately jumping and reacted them in the butt. And the same thing was happening in China against the Uyghur, but Muslim world continues silence. You know, Chinese government since 2017 collected Quran, burning Quran, forbidden fasting, even forbidden to growing up the bird, hijab, everything. Even today, you cannot greeting each other. You cannot use the salam alaikum. This is a universal word. And even you cannot use the salam alaikum. Even some Muslim name was forbidden. Aisha, Muhammad, Isa, all the forbidden. This is the happening today. And the rest of some world, you cannot find any place like such a restriction. This kind of things was happening today for the Uyghur Muslim, but unfortunately, still the Muslim world is a continuous silence. This is the shame.
Well, it certainly is a shame. And as you mentioned, out of the 47 countries, just one a Muslim country, Albania. And the fact of the matter is, what is happening in China is pure cruelty. And we've even heard people like Ilhan Umar make a statement saying that the oppression of the Uyghur Muslims is reminiscent of some of the worst crimes against humanity in history. And when we find countries that are not Muslim wanting to hold the Chinese accountable for these crimes against humanity, it's a sad situation that Muslim countries have not come to the fore. We've seen what has happened in India recently, where we've seen the spokesperson for the BJP government insulting the honor of the Prophet ﷺ. We've seen the OIC, and we've seen certain Arab countries issue statements, but for a very, very long time, they have turned a blind eye to the plight of these millions of Uyghur Muslims who are their own brothers, who are their own sisters, and as you mentioned, unspeakable crimes where we find that every effort is made to wipe out any form of Islamic identity in that part of the world.
Yes, yes, you are right. And there's some congresswomen and there's some the Muslim lawmakers and speaking out, Ilhan Umar and some other lawmaker in United Kingdom, United States, and then even also some of the part, and also civil society, some of the part, Indonesia, for example, Malaysia, and some civil society, and in Europe also, and even also some Arabic world, and some civil society, human rights activists, religious leaders speaking. Oh, this is we are happy for this, but what I'm saying, because Muslim leader, government, and they continue with China, this is unacceptable. Today, I already mentioned there is quite a lot of place, a lot of part of the world have discrimination and heavy human rights violation taking place, but level is different. Level is different. A human rights violation exists everywhere, even today, Europe, United States, but the level is different. And also persecution and against the Muslim or some other minority exists, unfortunately. But this is the problem today. Uyghur Muslim has been faced is completely. This is the genocide. So should be people must understand this is the situation. So take genocide just taking place for the Uyghur in this Turkestan today. This is the big difference. That's why all people doesn't matter. This is the any faith leaders or any human being. It doesn't matter. This is Muslim. It is Christian. It is Jewish. It is Buddhist. All human beings who love peace, who and want to stop the genocide, who love and humanity has the moral obligation to stop this. 1989, world leader and the promise never again. and the 1948 International Convention on Genocide. More than 150 countries signed it on the genocide. So it is mean this more than 150 country has a legal obligation to stop this ongoing genocide. We are talking about this, so that's why some people comparing the problem with some other issues, some of the part. Yes, it is. We want a better world. We want a world and people can live together with peacefully, without forced labor, without persecution. But if first all countries should be thinking it is all legal obligation and stop ongoing genocide. Then fight together, stand together with today Uyghur Muslim. Other way, Chinese Communist Party not only threaten for the today Uyghur Muslim, also threaten today and the world peace, world democracy, and the human right. Everything today, Chinese Communist Party threaten everywhere. Today, Chinese government use its economic power to impose. It is a ideological power to the rest of the world. And they impose, export, it is surveillance technology, facial recognition, voice recognition technology testing for the Uyghur today, export to the other African country, even some European country, So today, Chinese government use its economic power to manipulate to the international system, to manipulate some national government influence the national government system. And we have seen, we have heard so many influence to the African country and some of the Latin American countries, even in the European countries, even the economic, not only economic level, is academic level as well. So that's why today, whole world should be understand Chinese Communist Party, Chinese government hold danger for the all human beings.
Well, certainly. And also, I think when we look at, I think it was last month, where we looked at the European Parliament, obviously it called China guilty of crimes against humanity, and they've been exposed, and it was actually called the lie of the century. And at that point in time, you also obviously made certain statements about the EU and its member states to act upon these calls, to do everything they can, and also asking for cooperation with governments and civil society worldwide.
Yes, last week in the European Parliament, more than 700 lawmakers in the Strasbourg voted the resolution on high risky genocide against Uyghur and crime against humanity. It is a big step because European from the lawmakers, 700 lawmakers from 27 countries, they avoided it. It is not easy, but finally there are more than 600 lawmakers. Majority supports this resolution. This is a big step because China has a huge economic relationship, economic benefit with the European country. So this resolution playing major role to all European countries should be thinking on stop the business with China because today is not the correct time, business as usual. This is a good step, but only some Western country and the European countries speaking of this is not good enough. So all human beings, as they say, all countries, particularly nearly 2 billion Muslim countries, Muslim brothers, sisters, should be more involved in this issue. Then it is the way to stop this ongoing genocide because it is the obligation, because it's our ummah and have a responsibility to involve in this brother, Uyghur Muslim brother, and all 2 billion ummah has is a legal and the moral obligation to stand with Uyghur today. This is the only way, this is the only way. If other way, just European countries, some Western country, and speaking all of this issue, but the rest of some Muslim country continue silence, then China, this is something that like complicity of the Chinese crime against the Uyghur. This is gives us this silence and give wrong message to the Chinese government. Look, we are killing the Muslim, but Muslim world with us. So it is we are correct way. And they should not give such a wrong message to the Chinese government.
Well, Dolkun, as always, it's an absolute pleasure talking to you and getting regular updates on what is taking place in Xinjiang in the East Turkestan region. And for that, we appreciate your time. And I'm sure we will continue raising the issue, raising the plight of the Uyghur Muslims over and over again. And more importantly, we need, not only countries, but as you mentioned, civil society as well to continue making their voices heard, to continue making statements on the plight of the Uyghur Muslims. And once again, we wish you well. Please take care. All the best to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you very much, Ustaz, for having me.
That was Dolkun Isa joining us, President of the World Uyghur Congress. The time is just gone 8:29. We're going to go for a break. When we come back, we're going to be focusing on the food problem in South Sudan.